Phoenix was once the epicenter of excitement when this NBA season tipped off. They had the pieces, the hype, and a loyal fan base convinced that another deep playoff run was just around the corner. It seemed they'd finally found the perfect blend of firepower and chemistry. However, as the season dragged on, their once bright promise dimmed. Now, observers are asking, what exactly went wrong for a team that, on paper, still looks like a powerhouse? The earliest weeks showcased a swift, balanced offense, strong rotations, and surprisingly robust defense. Opponents faced challenges figuring out how to guard these sharpshooters, while Phoenix fans envisioned a triumphant spring. Yet in the midst of that excitement, an undercurrent of unease began to surface. Critics started pointing out defensive lapses, inconsistent leadership, and cracks in team unity. Some nights, it felt like the Suns had two different personalities, unstoppable on certain possessions, then suddenly disorganized on both ends of the floor. These fluctuations signaled a deeper issue that couldn't be masked by a few highlight reels. Some pinned their hopes on Kevin Durant's arrival as the solution to every problem. Let's face it, when you have someone of Durant's caliber, the natural assumption is that your squad has to rise at least another rung on the ladder of contention. Durant's track record speaks for itself: multiple scoring titles, 2 Finals MVP awards, and a skill set that's nearly impossible to contain. But this season has exposed a side of the Suns that talent alone can't fix. Leadership has been singled out as a glaring weakness. Few players have stepped up to fill that alpha role, particularly when adversity struck. The moment injuries sidelined key contributors and losses piled up, frustration rose to the surface, and the team's overall chemistry wavered. Durant himself isn't known for being a loud locker room presence. He's more the type to let his on-court brilliance do the talking. That can be just fine if there's another commanding voice who lays down the law. The problem is that Phoenix no longer seems to have that floor general who can galvanize everyone when times get tough. The departure of certain vocal veterans in past years has left a vacuum. As a result, the burden fell to either rising star Devin Booker or Chris Paul, who at this stage of his career has faced questions about durability and how much he can still offer on a nightly basis. Paul's health issues forced him in and out of the lineup, which threw even more uncertainty onto the court and made the quest for stability all the more complicated. One question that has increasingly circulated among fans and analysts is whether Devin Booker might eventually explore new horizons if the instability continues. Booker is already in his 10th season, far longer than many realize. Despite having made a memorable finals run a few years back, the team around him appears to be drifting. It's well known that high-level players don't appreciate constant flux in rosters, coaching, or strategy, especially as they enter what many consider their peak years. Booker has occasionally expressed his desire to bring a championship to Phoenix, but every star has a breaking point, especially if they perceive that a franchise is stuck in a perpetual state of almost. Meanwhile, the rumor mill churns vigorously around Durant. Despite coming to the Suns with grand expectations, whispers are emerging that significant roster adjustments might be on the horizon if Phoenix collapses too early in the postseason, or fails to make a legitimate run at all. League sources have hinted that if the Suns decide a rebuild or reconfiguration is necessary, Durant may be involved in large-scale trade talks. Such speculation might sound absurd, given how recently he arrived, but the NBA can be a fast-paced business, and fortunes shift dramatically once teams realize their trajectory doesn't match initial projections. This is hardly the first time Durant has faced sudden trade discussions. When he departed from Oklahoma City, fans were stunned, and the narrative about his commitment to winning followed him to Golden State. After thriving in the Warrior system, he left once again, landing in Brooklyn, which led to a tumultuous phase with injuries, roster upheavals, and swirling media coverage. Eventually, Phoenix became the next chapter, but if the Suns decide to pivot, we could see yet another Durant saga, with multiple contenders rumored to be interested. Teams that want a proven scorer and champion might be willing to part with future assets and young prospects, hoping Durant will push them over the top. Even so, there's caution among certain front offices. Although Durant is an all-time great, his leadership style and occasional injuries raise concerns for franchises that might have to give up a trove of picks and players. Is one superstar worth mortgaging the future for an uncertain title shot. There's a real possibility that whatever team takes Durant would still need that vocal force behind the scenes, a Jimmy Butler type of personality who can command a locker room. Without that element, adding Durant is simply adding elite scoring rather than stabilizing the entire culture of a team. Critics of Phoenix's front office are quick to note that the coaching staff and management haven't always made the best decisions with the tools they had. Trading away multiple future picks and promising young talent can look brilliant if it nets you a championship, but catastrophic if it leads to a first or second-round exit, especially when the star at the center of it all has a history of shifting locales. That's exactly why, for better or worse, the microscope is aimed squarely at the Suns' front office and their approach to building around Booker's prime years. None of this turmoil can overshadow how incredible Devin Booker has been. His scoring prowess, shot creation, and the intangible spark he brings on offense are huge reasons why fans remain hopeful. It's also why the notion of him growing frustrated is unnerving for management. This is a player who has shouldered the scoring load in ways few can replicate. The challenge is ensuring he doesn't bear that burden alone, especially when leadership, both on the floor and off, has been questioned. The last thing Phoenix wants is for Booker to feel isolated or undervalued, risking a situation where he might weigh his options elsewhere. Adding more drama to the conversation is the media, which thrives on speculation whenever a big name like Durant is involved. Sports talk shows can't stop debating whether Phoenix will bottom out, re-emerge, or blow it all up. Social media circulates endless theories. Durant to Oklahoma City, Durant to Minnesota, Durant to Houston, Durant to any dark horse contender with enough picks and cap space. Fans post trade machine screenshots, analysts question Durant's loyalty, and certain critics argue that no matter how brilliant he is as a scorer, he simply doesn't provide the brand of leadership that transforms a team's culture from the inside. The other name that pops up in these discussions is Chris Paul, once famed for his on-court leadership and fierce competitive drive. But age catches up with every athlete, and injuries have robbed Paul of that consistent presence. Even if he can bark orders from the sideline, it's not the same as being out there for 35 minutes per night, leading by example. The unfortunate truth is that the Suns haven't replaced that intangible factor Paul provided during their finals run. Without it, each loss magnifies speculation and intensifies the idea that something major has to give. Fans who've stuck by the Suns through countless rough patches have reached a tipping point themselves. They're eager to see whether there's any truth to the swirling rumors about blockbuster trades. While some remain optimistic that the Suns will correct their course before the playoffs, others are already bracing for a significant offseason shakeup. In an era where superstars change jerseys more frequently than ever, nothing seems impossible, not even another abrupt Durant deal. The real question is whether we're witnessing a momentary slump or the collapse of a team that was once pegged as a title contender. Phoenix can still generate glimpses of the top-tier play they showed at the beginning of the year, but those moments feel too few and far between. If they can't recapture that early season magic, the management will have to decide if they can patch the roster around Booker or if they need to pull the plug on this experiment altogether. And if they do make radical changes, fans will scrutinize every single move, especially if it means waving goodbye to Kevin Durant. Nothing is set in stone. The upcoming stretch of games could either redeem the Suns or confirm what naysayers have suspected all season. That talent alone isn't enough, and genuine leadership is irreplaceable. For now, Phoenix remains in limbo, caught between the memory of a successful finals run and the reality of a precarious future. Kevin Durant's presence might offer fleeting hope, but a deeper sense of direction has to emerge if they want to avoid the dreaded label of team that almost got there. In the end, the story of this Suns season might be defined by how they respond to adversity. Will they rally under a revitalized game plan, tighten their defense, and spark a strong postseason push? Or will the cracks widen, fueling rumors that next year's roster will be nearly unrecognizable? With each passing day, the stakes rise, and the tension surrounding Durant's potential exit grows. The final chapters of this saga are about to be written, and if Phoenix can't pull off a stunning reversal, we might see a truly sensational offseason reshuffle. So, can the Suns reinvent themselves before it's too late? Will Durant commit to the project and turn on the leadership intangible that critics insist he lacks? Or is a major trade scenario lurking just around the corner? These questions keep the NBA world enthralled, and until they're answered, all eyes will remain fixed on Phoenix. One dramatic twist could reshape the franchise and Durant's legacy forever. The pressure is on,